Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us in another session of Gentle Chair Yoga with Keith Beasley. Before we begin, I just wanted to acknowledge our friends at the Brookline Library for sponsoring this program and programs like it. I also wanted to thank our community partners, Brookline Interactive Group, who will be streaming this program through Facebook, YouTube, and local cable channel 3 on RCN and Xfinity. This program is also being streamed through the library's Facebook page as well. I would like to read a quick disclaimer before we begin. Participation in this online yoga program could result in injury. Not all exercises presented here are suitable for everyone. These exercises are not intended to substitute for proper medical care or advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any exercise program. The creators, teachers, and producers assume no responsibility for injuries from participation in this program.
Hi, good morning. Welcome. Let's start in our mountain pose. So our seated mountain pose. And that means extending the spine up, maybe closing the eyes and feeling supported underneath, under the feet, and also under the sitting bones in the chair, under the buttocks. So that's our support. And that's where we extend the spine up from. We need that support in order to be able to extend the spine. So we're sitting up nice and tall, and we're going to focus on the breath, beginning with just a few abdominal breaths. Feel free to rest the palm on the belly. That can help to feel the breath moving in and out more easily. We need to be able to feel the breath in order to accentuate it, to broaden it, to make it feel really more meaningful, especially as we're exhaling. We want to be able to feel the belly soften. And then as the belly softens, the shoulders relax, the face and eyes relax. Still keeping the spine elongated though. So when we inhale and the belly is lifting out, see if you can feel the belly expanding. It's almost like the spine is expanding upwards. So we're getting that that feeling of lift from the belly expanding, from the ribs expanding. And we keep that support, we keep that feeling of lift as we exhale. So the exhalation is we get the relaxation response from the body when we exhale. And if we can, we're breathing in and out through the nose for all these. For most of what we do in our practice, it'll be in and out through the nose unless your nose is stuffed up. It's more relaxing to use the nostrils than the mouth. And notice if you feel balanced, left and right side. You want to feel balance, evenness on the weight in the feet, and also the weight in the sitting bones. Sometimes without even noticing, we have this tendency to lean over to one side like this. And it's more comfortable and it's easier to sit, especially for longer times if we're straight. And notice that there's about a 90-degree angle here between the thigh and the shin, and about a 90-degree angle between the thigh and the torso. We have the curves in our back. Going in is the lumbar. A little bit out is the thoracic spine, right between the shoulder blades. And then the neck, the back of the neck is curving in. So we like those curves to be the natural shape of the body. So that means not too much and not flat. The curves if you look at it, the skeleton, if you look at a model of the spine, you'll see that the vertebrae are not they're not even on the bottom. There's a little bit of an angle, and that angle is built into the vertebra because there's a natural curve in the spine. The angle's made to fit the curve. So we want to make sure we have that curve, not too much, not too little. And let's begin with the sound of Om. So something that we can warm the vocal cords up with, and also bring a little more attention to the breathing, to the diaphragm, to the strength of the diaphragm. So remember the Om sound. Think about the shape of the mouth. The ah. Let's try this together. The ah. So when you go to the doctor, they say open wide. You say ah, and they can look into your mouth. And then the oh, like a fish, a little bit of a fish mouth. And the last one, we're closing the mouth. Like a bee buzzing. So we have those three different sounds, but we string them all together. So they just flow one into the other. Think about evenness and gentleness of the flow rather than a loud voice. The loud part isn't actually important. It's the smoothness and the connectedness. And also notice how the feeling, there's a feeling that travels up from the base of the throat up into the sinuses. With each sound is a little bit of movement of that sound, or the biggest feeling of that sound. I mean, we're going to feel it all over, but we'll feel a little bit more in one spot versus another. So let's try that together. We'll do it for about 30 seconds. We'll breathe in, natural breath in, make the sound, then breathe in again naturally and continue with the sound as if it was as in a sea, we have waves, and the waves are, they're together, but they're independent. They're not always doing the same thing. So think of yourself as a wave in the ocean, a gentle wave. So let's breathe in. Relaxing the shoulders. Softening the face and eyes. Releasing the jaw, the tongue, and the throat. Extending the spine up, and last one. Listening to the silence. So before we, just a couple of reminders. It's starting to get warmer out. Little water. Please have some water handy. Just to sip periodically, especially if we do more pranayama types of things. Sometimes a little sip of water after, or maybe even in the middle, you might need it. Things get kind of, it helps to loosen up the throat. And also staying hydrated is going to be more important as the weather gets warmer. Actually, it becomes very important with the warm weather. And sitting up nice and tall. And let's begin with some sun breaths to warm up. Bring the hands together, and then inhale up and around. Inhaling up, and then letting the hands float down. Inhaling up, hands floating down. bringing our attention to the feeling of the movement of the hands and arms and its connection with the breath. If you can shut your eyes, that can be a nice way to practice. And see if you can feel like the arms are moving and the breath is moving in and out as one activity, or there's a connection. It's almost like say gears that are interconnected. When one moves, the other is moving. So it's as if there's this interrelationship that you can't separate. And then bring the palms together. Let's go the other way. Dropping the hands, inhaling, palms up, arms up, and then circling around. So the arms are circling the opposite way. The shoulders are still relaxed. The face and eyes are relaxed. We feel grounded under the feet, grounded under the buttocks. Remembering you can make the circles as large or as small as you want. You can have giant ones if your shoulders allow for that. You could even let the chin move up and down a little bit if it wants to. You could even have the pelvis rocking forward and back a little bit if it likes to do that. So these movements, the movement that we started with was the shoulders circling around. And when we do that, we'll automatically get the shoulder blades. If I make smaller circles, it might be easier to see, but notice how the shoulder blades are circling. I'm not trying to circle them, but just because they're attached to the arms, they're circling. And as they circle around, the movement in the spine ripples out into the pelvis and also up into the neck. And then bringing the arms down, let's roll the shoulders. And that's always something to remember whenever we do movements. We usually focus on one part of the body first, and then we let the other parts move with that part. So we're circling the other way now. And let's do a little turning. So bringing the hands up like this, the elbows are down, the hands are just say like this, like you're going to wave. And then we're going to move the elbows back. Move the elbows back. Notice I'm not really turning, my head is turning a little bit, but only because it's on top of the shoulders and the shoulders are turning. I'm not actually twisting my neck. I'm moving my elbow back. And as I move my elbow back, I'm feeling the movement across the diagonal from the hip to the shoulder. So that's where we're going to focus our attention, from the hip to the shoulder. So this is a little turning in the body. It's very good for digestion and elimination. Gently massages the organs. As the muscles stretch, they press and gently push on the internal organs, especially the intestines. And most people, let's bring the arms back. Most people can use a little bit of help down here with, we don't always get enough activity. You know, people were made, let's do a little swimming. People were made to move, and we sit a lot. When we sit a lot, things don't move as well down in the intestines. Now let's go back the other way, reaching out and a little swimming, a little more turning, and this time a little bit more with the arms, reaching the arms out, across, and down. You can even dip the shoulder slightly as the arm is coming down. And notice my head is turning again, but I'm not turning the neck. My head is turning because my shoulders are turning. As if I was going to take a breath, as if I was swimming and I was going to take a breath of air. I'm letting my body turn. And you might notice that the weight's moving a little bit back and forth on the feet. Notice the knees are going side to side a little bit. And even the hips move a little bit too. As I reach forward, my hips move. So as everything is interconnected. And then we bring the arms down and sit up nice and tall. And then a sigh. Sigh of relief. So whenever you need a little break, go anywhere where it's private, even go in the bathroom. Just close the door and just take a couple of sighs, like and notice how the nervous system calms down. It's really nice. Sigh is a very powerful thing to use to calm ourselves down. And sit up nice and tall. And let's if I could do some eye exercises. We don't often do this in yoga. I used to go to a class. It was a longer class, and we used to always do eye exercises. But it was a 2-hour class. But it'll be like this. So I took my glasses off, so you'll see my eyes easier. And I find it, if you have glasses, that it's easier to not have glasses, if that's comfortable for you. If you're comfortable to, not be able to see as clearly. And sitting up nice and tall, and what we'll do is we'll move the eyes in different directions. We're going to start out just lifting up and looking up with the eyes and then down. And I'm not straining the eyes to do it. I just a little look up, a gaze up, and a gaze down. Notice my head is staying in the same position. So I'm looking up and looking down. And if you have trouble, we have a tendency for the neck to move with the eyes to help us. So if you could always just rest your palms on your cheeks like this with your elbows in, and that will just sort of stabilize the head a little bit, and you can look up and down. Nice and slowly too, and then we'll close the eyes. So 6 or 8 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, something like that is plenty, especially if this is a new exercise. And then now we're going to go side to side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We always come back to the center and close the eyes, give them a chance to rest. Really relax the eyes, soften the eyes. The most important thing with eye exercises is to not strain the eyes. So we always want to rest them, and we always, when we move the eyes, we want to move them in such a way that there's no strain at all in the eyes. It's kind of like we're very casually moving the eyes. And in the beginning, sometimes the movement might be small, and that's okay. If you practice regularly, you'll get so that you get the movement increases and it still feels casual. There's no strain. So just like with everything that we do in our class, we're never straining the muscles that we have in our body. We're asking them to move, but we're not straining them. And that's important. And sitting up nice and tall, and then we'll open up. And now let's do a diagonal. And if you want, you can continue with the hands like this, or if you can keep your head without moving, then you can bring your hands down. And I'm going to look up, sort of in the corner of the room, and then down. So it's back and forth like this. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then come back and close the eyes. So my gaze is now under the eyelids, is straight ahead. And then we'll open the eyes. Now we'll do the other diagonal. So we're crisscrossing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then close the eyes. Remember, we're not straining. Nice and easy. And then the last two is we'll circle the eyes around. So we'll open and we'll circle the eyes around slowly. 2, 3, and 4 times. That's plenty. And then go the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then looking straight ahead and then closing the eyes, relaxing. So bring your attention to the face, to the eyes, and soften the face and the eyes. See if you can even give a little smile. A little smile is nice. And then go ahead and open the eyes. And let's do the neck. Sitting up tall and then releasing the chin down. And we're going to go back and forth, lifting the chin up and then releasing it down. So as I release the chin down, I let the weight of the head do the work. And then come back up and we'll tip the head. Same thing here. I begin to tip to the side and then I just let the weight of the head carry itself over and then the other way. Let's add the breath to it. We'll inhale up and then exhale as I relax and allow the head to go to the side. Inhale up, exhale. Remember, we can also use a pillow if we want with our hands. Inhale up, exhale. So we're always, we experiment. We try the hands and we see if we like that better. It's always, we're really the only person that can feel what's happening with what we're doing. People can look at us, but they can't feel it. And that's one of the important things with yoga is we need to focus in so we can feel what's happening. And then sitting up nice and tall, and then we'll turn the head. Nice and easy, and also slowly. So anybody, if this begins to make you dizzy, then try going a little slower, not turning the head as much. If that still doesn't work, then you should just skip. And this is true for all so whenever we move the head, it affects the inner ear. So so smaller might be better for you, and slower might be better. And if that still doesn't work, then skip the neck exercises. And circling around. Almost like the eyes circling here. Except the eyes are closed here and or maybe then think of the nose circling around like you're drawing a circle with the nose. And then going back the other way. And then sitting up nice and tall. And let's do some cactus breaths here. Cactus breaths. So we want to make sure that we're warmed up enough. Inhaling and exhaling. So remember, we can start out with just holding the elbows. And then as we begin to warm up, or as things begin to feel like we can go a little more, your hands may start to go up the arms. And they may even go as far as the shoulder blades. But we're doing it without any forcing. So we need to be able to accept, even if it's just the elbows, that's still pretty good. And almost everybody has some sorts of limitations. And we need to figure out, we need to be able to figure out how to accept our limitations. That can be really hard. That's very hard. Sitting up nice and tall, and let's circle around. So like we're stirring ourselves around. We can even stir, taking the hands and stirring the hands around. So the stirring, the first step in stirring is the hands on the knees. And then the second one is the hands circling around as if we had something in front of us that we're stirring, like a pot of soup. And then the third one is we could even circle a little bit more with the hands coming up and around. Hands up and around. And then going back the other way. Remembering that if you want to be able to circle the arms overhead, we need more core strength for that. So you may want to start out small, thinking about your core strength, thinking about extending the spine up, and then firming the belly. So during all this stirring part, the belly is firm here to support the back. So the belly is firm, the back, they're both lifting up, and even the sides are lifting up to support the spine. And then coming back up and sitting up nice and tall. And let's slide all the way back and do a few leg lifts, lifting up and then down. So starting out with not overly stretching, just lifting the leg up by activating the thigh here. Making sure that the toes are pointed up, straight up. And this is going to help to warm up, especially the legs and the belly. So we always want to warm up different parts of the body. We did the shoulders a little bit. We're doing the legs and the lower core. Back and forth. And let's work on the joints for a moment, or a few moments. So starting by rocking the feet. Back and forth. So we're coming up. So today, think about it in terms of rocking onto something. So think about rocking back onto the heels and then rocking up onto the balls of the feet or the toes. So you might need to adjust how far out the feet are for this. So you can get a little bit more lifting. And actually you'll find that if your feet are further out, it's easier to lift the toes higher. And if your feet are further in, it's easier to lift the heels higher. Harder to lift the toes when your feet are in. So you have to find some place that feels most comfortable, where there's a balance between the two. So think the weight is shifting into the heels, weight is shifting into the balls of the feet. Heels, balls of the feet. And then notice the connection between the calf and the shin muscles, depending on whether or not you're on the heel or the ball of the foot. So when you're on the ball of the foot, there's a contraction, there's more of a lifting up on the back of the leg. And when the toes are up, there's a contraction along the shin bones. So it's almost like there's a string. You could even imagine there's a string between the heel and the calf, so that when you lift the heel up, the calf is lifting up, or it's contracting. And let's circle the ankles around. Circling the ankles, and then circling the wrists, And then going the other way. Making sure the knees aren't moving. So my knees stay in one spot. You could even slow it down a little bit. Feet, the toes and the fingers are pointing in the same direction. So when the toes point out, the fingers point out. When the toes point in, the fingers point in. So see if you can keep them right in sync with each other, and then go the other way. Slow down a little bit, helps. And see if you can keep it a smooth circle. Sometimes it can get a little choppy, especially on the non-dominant side. The movement sometimes that we get on the non-dominant side, we get some hesitancy versus the dominant side. And so let's sitting up nice and tall. So make sure you're using the back of the chair for this one. Now we're going to start to lift up the leg and extend it out and then down. So this is a leg lift with a little bit more pulling the toes back, a little bit more concentration and a little slower. Before we were just sort of lifting the leg up to warm up, and this is going to be a little more directed right at the quadricep, and also pulling the toes back. So as I lift up, I want to pull the toes back to extend the underside of the leg. And I pause at the top just for a moment and then let it go back down. But I'm not holding my breath. I'm inhaling and exhaling and inhaling. So sometimes when we inhale and we get to the end of the inhalation, there's a natural pause that we'll get before we exhale. And the same thing when we've exhaled before we inhale again, there's a little short natural pause that can happen. And then we can add the arm to this for a little bit more. So now we're starting to warm up the thigh, the core, as well as the shoulders. Lifting up like graceful, like a dancer. Now this other side. And notice how this feels like there's more effort required. So if you feel like this is too much, just go back to the legs. And if your legs get tired, you could just go back and do the arms. So anytime we find we're tired in a certain area, we can pause that area and do the other part that we've been working on. And then if that feels too easy, you could do 2 legs accompanied by 1 arm. And if that's still too easy, you can do 2 legs accompanied by both arms. But find something that feels comfortable for you. So you have to decide, starting with just 1 leg and an arm, 2 legs, 2 legs and an arm, or 2 legs and 2 arms. And a couple more times. And then go ahead and rest. Relax for a moment and close the eyes, release the shoulders down. Sitting up nice and tall. Let's do our eagle arms. So extending 1 arm out and the other arm out, and then crossing one over the other like this. And so eagle arms, you can work with holding the arms like this, or you can begin to, as you cross over, we have the elbow and the crook of the other elbow, and then we begin to wind them together. And remember, you can use a strap or any piece of cloth, a towel, small towel, to be able to make it a little bit easier to hold the hands together. You just have to figure out which hand the towel hangs down from. So this is a little bit more comfortable to hold on like this. And I'm not holding on too hard with the hands. The hands are holding the towel, but not holding it for dear life. And sitting up nice and tall. Take a couple of breaths. And if you find this is really easy, you can begin to lift the elbows up and move the elbows away from the chest. And that's going to expand the shoulder blades more. You still want to be able to keep the shoulders relaxed, and then we'll go ahead and come back down and release. And remember, for any of these poses, we always want to gauge for ourselves when we need to come out. If you find that you're holding your breath, the pose, you probably need to come out of the pose or at least back off of the pose. We always want to be breathing freely. That's an important part, especially the exhalation. So think about that next with the other half of eagle pose, the other side. It's especially important for eagle pose because there's a constriction. It's the opening in the chest is limited when we do eagle pose. So we're going to switch arms. So this arm was, for me, was on top before. So now I'm going to put this arm on top. So now this elbow is in the crook of this elbow, like this. So I can be like this. I can intertwine like this. And for me, I can actually intertwine these arms. I don't need a strap. But because of limitations in my shoulder the other way, I do. And we'll take a few breaths here. Inhaling, relaxing the shoulders. Keep the shoulders relaxed. And the next step is to lift the elbows up, but no higher than the shoulders. And also move the elbows out away from the chest. Making sure we can do this without the shoulders riding up towards the ears. If the shoulders are hiking up towards the ears, then relax the shoulders and the elbows down. And then go ahead and uncross and release. We'll do that one more time. The next step for this is we can also do the legs. So you can either just repeat the arms or you can add the legs to it. So let's see. So we did I did the right arm on top. So it's whatever arm is on top, the opposite leg is on top. So right arm on top, left leg crosses over on top like this. So let's start out with just the legs and see how that feels. So for some people, it may bother your knees, then you shouldn't do it. Okay, if there's any pain or discomfort in the knees or in the hips, then please don't cross your legs like this. Some people may actually be able to intertwine the foot behind the calf. I can't do that, but some people can. And so it's left over right, and then I have right over left. I have right over left. And then I do my intertwining, either the arms holding on like this, or I begin to intertwine. And so I'm holding the hands and then breathing in and exhaling, softening, relaxing the shoulders. So extending the spine up, keeping the shoulders relaxed, keeping the face and eyes relaxed. And you may find that if you're crossing your legs, that you're not getting as much height in the elbows. That's okay. And then go ahead and whenever you're ready, you can uncross. So noticing when we add the legs to it, it influences the other parts of the body. And that's quite common because, we've talked about the connective tissue that runs up and down from the lower part of the body to the upper part. There's connections. And when those connections are, there's only a certain amount of movement that's available in the connective tissue. We can stretch it. It takes time to do that. which is one of the reasons we practice. So we'll do, so now I have right over left and left over right. So notice I have this leg on top and then the opposite arm on top like this. And I'm going to interlace. But there's only so much, the connective tissue only stretches so much. And if we take up some of it with the legs, then there's not as much for the upper part of the body. And breathing, sitting up nice and tall. Seeing if you can relax. See if you can give a little smile. I'll move the arms over. See if you can smile a little bit. So let go of some of the effort. And then whenever you're ready, you can unwind. And then if your legs were crossed, you can uncross the legs. So sitting up nice and tall. Let's do a few cactus breaths. And exhaling. Give yourself a little hug. So the hugging might feel a little easier now because we've been working with eagle pose. And letting the arms, sort of a counter pose, this opening like this, and then one more. And then let's bring the hands. So you could stand for this if you wanted to. So feel free, if you're standing, if you like to do things standing, feel free to stand and either interlace the fingers like this. I'm going to turn around so you can see. You can put the fingers pointing down like this. Or you could even work with the hands on the hips like this. You could even bring the hands all the way down like this. The important thing is that the shoulders can relax down and the chest can broaden and open. So that's an important part. Shoulders relax down and the chest broadens. So when we do these movements, there's this, we inhale. I'm going to move the shoulder blades back and forth so you can see. We'd like to be able to move the shoulder blades with some ease forward and back without straining. So even just a little bit of movement, we start to get that back and forth, that almost like they're wings, almost like the shoulder blades are wings. The shoulders are relaxed and down, and the spine feels like it's extending up. And this doesn't matter whether you're seated or standing. We're still working by extending the spine up, broadening the shoulders, and broadening the heart and the chest. And then bringing the hands down. And bend the spine in 6 ways. So mobility of the spine is really important in order for the body to move. And also in order for the breathing to work well, we need to be able to, the spine needs to move. And we'll rest the hands on the knees like this. Notice we have that we're seated at 90 degrees here, 90 degrees here. Sitting up tall, extending the spine, resting the palms on the knees. It's like my fingers are kind of holding onto the knees, but without overly gripping. The palms are actually relaxed, but my fingers curl lightly over the knees. And then I inhale and lift, and then exhale, move the heart back. So think about moving the center of the chest forward and back. Center of the chest, the heart, is moving forward and back. So focus your attention there. You might notice that the chin is lifting up and down a little, or that the pelvis is rocking back and forth. But that's secondary. I want to feel the movement happening here in the heart, forward and back. So as I inhale, my hands are holding here. Notice the arms are fairly straight. The arms aren't really bending. And the shoulders aren't really moving. It's the chest moving back and forth between the shoulders. And The lower back isn't really rounding. It flattens a little, but it's not, I'm not doing this. I'm not ending up with a rounded lower back. That's too much compression for the lumbar spine. It's not good for the spine. And seeing if you can find some ease here. Let go of some of the effort. Don't try so hard. And then sitting up nice and tall. And then we're going to go from side to side. So we're going to start just by rocking like this. So that was bending the spine, flexion and extension, forward and back. And we're going to lift up the foot. I'm going to get a little bit more activity in the core of the body, also the quadriceps, and also begins to feel balance is if we're lifting the leg up, lifting the foot up, and the buttocks is starting to come out of the chair. So I could even slide my hand under here. I'm now starting to balance on one side of the body. I just want to be careful not to fall out of the chair. And if there's any concerns about balancing like this, use a chair with arms. Use a chair with arms, and then you can just gently touch the arm of the chair as you come over. Just being mindful not to bang into the arm of the chair. So we don't want to bruise the side of the body or the ribs. It also means that we have to exercise control to go slowly back and forth. And the slower we go, the more work we're going to feel in the core of the body. It's good though. It's good work. It's good work. And if you do it regularly, it gets easier. The nice thing about doing a chair class like this is that most of us spend a lot of time in a chair. You could take a break anytime you wanted if you wanted to work on your core strength and do an exercise like this, just leaning, even just for a minute. Even just for a minute. If you do this a few times a day, or even start with once a day, maybe after you've had a little coffee, so you feel kind of, most of us get a little more pep, or tea after we've had some coffee or tea, or maybe you had a biscuit, so a little sugar, so we're feeling peppy. And notice I'm not going fast, I'm going slow, and I'm really keeping my attention focused on extending the spine, feeling firmness here. Make sure the belly is firm and the spine is extended, and then coming back down. And then sitting up nice and tall. And exhaling. So some yoga classes that we go to, there can be a lot of emphasis. I've actually been to classes where the emphasis is on building core strength in most of the class. And at the end, your belly is very tired. It's worked more than usual. So sitting up nice and tall. And let's move on. I think we're warmed up enough. Let's move on to some more asanas. We did eagle pose, and let's go ahead and do triangle pose. So stepping the feet apart, we'll do it one time in the chair and one time standing up. If you'd like to just do it standing up and you know how to do that, please feel free to go ahead. But we'll start, and I'll demonstrate it first in the chair. So we have the feet apart, and because my thighs are at an angle here, I'm going to turn my feet out so that the hip and the front of the knee and the toes are pointed in the same direction. So that's, so normally we just want to make sure that the knee is neutral relative to the toes and to the hip joint, or to the top of the thigh. So if you had a narrower stance, your feet won't go out as much. And as your feet go out, as the feet get apart, the toes point out more and the knees point out more. So sitting up nice and tall, and then extending the arms out. Go ahead and lift and extend out through the fingers. Take a breath. And as you exhale, think about pulling the arms, the head of the humerus back in towards the body. So there's this small movement. It's almost like we're drawing the shoulder blade back in. So if I'm like this, and I draw my shoulder blades, there's a slight movement here where the shoulder blade, the muscle between the spine and the tip of the shoulder blade here. And it's a small movement. It's call it a micro movement. It's engagement of the muscles in to keep the arms in the joint. And then as we exhale, we can let the hands come down, or hand, and then we come back up and we do the other side. Exhale. And exhale, inhale on the way up, and exhale, and inhale up, and exhale. You could also do this with the legs extended if you were so inclined. So it just needs to be comfortable. And if your legs are extended, you'll need to be closer to the front of the chair. So just be mindful that you don't, we want to make sure our buttocks, our sitting bones are firmly in the chair. It's very important for support. If we don't feel supported, when we do these poses, it throws us off. It means that, and then one more time on the other side. When we feel supported in the poses, it makes us, it gives us a feeling of strength. You know, one of the reasons that we do these standing poses, or the poses where the feet are connected with the ground, is that it makes us, it charges us. It's not a lightness that we're feeling, it's a groundedness that we feel. And you know, when we're on the ground, we feel strength. And I'm trying to think, there was some mythological character, or maybe I thought that when they were on the ground, they were really strong, but when they were not on the ground, they lost all their strength. And I think we're not so different. The ground gives us strength, maybe because our legs are the strongest, really the strongest part of the body is our legs, usually. And then sitting up nice and tall and standing up, or you can continue to stay seated. And we're going to do triangle pose now, standing if you're doing it standing. Remember to have your chair maybe handy. If you need a chair, we step the feet apart. The wider the feet are apart, the more challenging the pose is, and we extend the arms out. So reach out through the fingertips and then draw the shoulder blades together so that the arms come back into the shoulders. Arms come slightly back into the shoulders, and inhale, and then exhale, and let the hands slide down the leg. Inhale up, exhale, and inhale up. Remember to follow your own breath here. Follow your breath. You know what to do. We're exhaling and the hands sliding down the leg. You could even bring the hand all the way up. You could bring the hand right to the side and let it slide down. And then all the way back up and back out. Sometimes that feeling, that sliding down the leg, even though there isn't a lot of support there, it gives us a feeling of support. And it makes the pose a little bit, we feel more grounded in the pose. And then lower the arms down, and then we can bring the feet back together. So small steps, or toe heel like this. If your feet are wide apart, you can toe heel like this with small toe healing. And then standing, take a couple breaths. If you're standing, if you're seated, take a couple of breaths. This is our mountain pose. And I'm going to sit back down. We'll do tree pose. So we just did triangle, and we had some nice opening in the hip joint like this. So think about that as you do tree pose, and we'll demonstrate it first seated, and then we'll go to standing. So we'll step the foot apart out like this, and then bring the sole of the foot onto the leg of the chair. Or if you're standing, you can bring the sole of the foot onto the inside of the calf. And then extending the arms out, lifting the arms up slightly, or you could even have the hands up like this or in prayer position, your choice. Extending the spine up. So feel the support of that leg that's in front or the leg that's straight beneath you. And then go ahead when you're ready and lower down. Bring the foot back. Come back to mountain pose. Feel balanced on the left and the right. So come back to evenness and then step the opposite leg out. Extend the spine up. So lengthen the spine up. And then we'll go ahead and bring the sole of the foot on the inside of the leg of the chair or the inside of the calf if you're standing. And then we'll extend the arms up. Breathing, extending the spine, balanced. Remember, you can have a drishti point. You can find something that won't move and gaze at that spot. Keep the mind steady on that spot. And then when you're ready, you can lower the arms back down and step back. And then we'll do tree pose standing, or you can repeat it again seated. So standing or mountain pose, extending the spine and stepping the foot wide out to the side, and then finding the sole of the foot, either on the inside of the calf or on the leg of the chair. And when you're ready, you can extend the arms. Find that drishti point, and eyes are steady on that point. Eyes are steady. Keep breathing. Relaxing the shoulders. Eyes are steady. And then go ahead and come down. We'll do the other side. So make yourself even first, left and right side, and then step the foot out. And then go ahead and sole the foot on the inside of the leg. And then extending the arms up, opening the chest. Steady gaze on that drishti point. Remember to breathe. And whenever you're ready, you can bring the arms down and step down. And we'll swing the arms. It's a little turning, a little twisting. So if you're doing this seated, just watch out for the back of the chair and the arms of the chair. And then we're going to all sit down. And we're going to settle into our Savasana. So maybe a little bit of something to stay warm. Maybe not, depending on how your room is now, as we're getting a little warmer. You might not need a blanket, or you might need a very light something. Our body still tends to cool down, so even a little light something can be nice. Nice way to practice. So we're settling in, leaning against the back of the chair. Taking a few breaths. Allowing the eyes to close. Allowing the eyes to close. So this is our Savasana. And we'll continue like this for about a minute. And then feel free to stay longer in Savasana. 5 or 10 minutes is nice if you have enough time. Just focusing on the breath. We don't have to think about anything else except relaxing, breathing, and extending the spine gently up. Not too much effort with the spine though. Keeping our attention focused on the breath. So we'll see everyone next time. So this will end the formal part of the class, and feel free to continue with Savasana as long as you like. See everyone next time. Namaste.